you've decided to join the fashion industry. Are you going to do it through apprenticeship? Are you going to go to school? Or are you just going to wing it? Either way, I don't think there's anything wrong with those options, but I guess I could give you a few pointers on what to consider so that you can make a better decision. So today, that's what we're exploring. Welcome! Hey, welcome to this week's episode. I hope you are well, and I hope you did manage to catch up with last week's episode. I know it was long, but I did put timestamps so that you could skip through if you want to watch the video faster. I really don't mind. I think the whole point is that you just get the information that you need. But I think I appreciate it more if you just watch the whole thing. There are new subscribers. Welcome. We have just two more subscriptions to 100. Please, the two people who watch this regularly and have not yet subscribed, please subscribe. And of course, many more. I would love to reach way more than even 100. But anyway, welcome either way. So today we are going to explore the things you should consider before going to school or learning more about fashion. Basically, that's the gist of it. I promise you this video is going to be shorter because I am going to probably do it more in point form than I did last time. I don't need to ramble. These are very straightforward tips. There are some that maybe I'll explain more, but others will probably just be short and in point form, and I hope you will enjoy this. Let's start with the first thing you need. So the first one is whether you should learn by going to school or through apprenticeship. The beauty of the fashion industry that it's usually more talent based than it is about how far you've gone to school. But there are benefits to going to school, and I will always encourage somebody to be able to just go to school, because one thing is that that's how you start getting your networks into the fashion industry. As I mentioned last week, networking is very important in the fashion industry if you really want to excel in it. So it helps you start building those networks. Your fellow classmates might be a big someone in some organization or even in their own brand at some point, or the school may be connected to people in the industry that are easier to access if you went to school. So networking is very important. Also, there is just skills you learn when you're in school that you may not be aware that you need to learn if you just do it through apprenticeship. Apprenticeship simply means you learn what that person has decided to teach you. They might not even teach you everything they know. They might just teach you what they've considered this is what is important. But the problem with that is that you only have their perspective. So apprenticeship is usually good if you're already specializing, but I'll always recommend that you go to fashion school to just learn properly. So if you have the money, please go to school. If you don't have the money, apprenticeship is a good way to start. And please do not think apprenticeship is usually free. You pay. Even tailors who learn through apprenticeship usually pay for classes from the tailor who's training them. So it's not free. Trust me. Fashion is very expensive. So that's the first one. One thing that I would highly recommend, especially for schools based in Kenya and with the habit people have of opening colleges, especially for skill-based careers like hairdressing, fashion design, makeup and all that, check the certification of the school. Currently, our government is being very strict with the TVET. I will write the full meaning. Certification. They are insisting that at least schools need to be registered with the body that gives the certification for the government. So even if you end up in an institution that is not giving an international certificate, then just make sure at least they're giving the local government one. For me, unfortunately, the school I went to did not give me even the government certificate. I just ended up with the school certificate. And I have managed to survive with it as it is, but probably at some point I might go back to school to get a more recognized certification. It isn't a must, because in the end this is a skill-based industry, so what you do is more important. But the truth is that there are some opportunities that you could be locked out of because they insist on certification. So certification is one of those things you really need to check. Also, just check the curriculum that they're teaching. It's important to know, just actually compare them, the different institutions, compare the curriculum and then figure it out to see which one you will consider. Just know that probably just because a school charges more money doesn't mean that they have the best curriculum, but do check the curriculum, because maybe you will realize that there's something that school offers that you prefer than the other one, even if you're not really looking at where the certificates come from. So that's something you should consider. Interview past and current students. I think actually interviewing past students might be more important to some point, because you will know if something changed when you're talking to the current, and you will also see how far they managed to go with their careers based on what they learned, or if they added their own learning. I can tell you, for me, I think I have gone way beyond what I learned in college. I won't say that going to college was not beneficial. It was definitely beneficial. And the goodness about the college I went to is that they insisted on students making their own projects, outfits, everything. It was all done in-house, and they checked us on it. And even the practical exam was timed, so you also learned how to time yourself and all that. So there is a benefit to going to college. And also just learning how to put clothes together. Clothing construction is very, sometimes there are people who come up with their own way, but there's a way it's done, and you learn that mostly in school. So interview students, find out if it was just good for the basic skill and they learned the rest by themselves, or basically school was very beneficial. Of course, that really depends on the school you go to. Schools abroad and schools here are very different, but you just start with where you can. And also, this is an opportunity for you to expand on that thing for certification. If you want to continue with your education in fashion industry, the certification you get should be able to open opportunities for you to study it further, whether it's locally or abroad. So that's also something you could ask students about as you interview them, so that you can know if it's the right institution for you. Part of the process of learning is that there are some certain topics or certain units that you will not enjoy at all. Even in day-to-day business, there are so many things we do that we do not enjoy, and that is no different even in something you love, even if it's fashion. There are very many people who've learned that they don't like sewing, so they hire tailors. There are some who learn that they're not very good at sketching, so you hire fashion illustrators. There are some who are not very good at cutting clothes, so you hire a pattern maker. So it's important to just know your skill, but also just understand what skill this is. It's good to go through the process in school, learn what the skill is, so that by the time you're hiring someone, at least you have an idea of what you want. It's very difficult to work with someone who doesn't really understand even the skill they need. And the problem sometimes you end up having is that you end up fighting about price, because on one hand you can't do this skill, but you're also underestimating how long and how complex it is. So my advice would be, definitely look into understanding the skill that you are hiring someone to do, and also maximize on your strengths and learn from your weaknesses. Just because you're not very good at pattern drafting doesn't mean you shouldn't know it, but also if you know you're very good at illustrating, continue with that, but also just make sure that you have someone who's going to complement that skill, because illustrations alone are not enough to make clothes. Fashion is very expensive, and when I talk about it being expensive, I'm not necessarily talking about the school fees. Generally, the biggest shocker I think is you go to this school, they tell you fashion kit, you think that's all you'll spend your money on. The truth is you're going to keep buying materials for your project, so that is majority of the expenses. And if you're doing a course for whether it's 2 years or more, you have to buy the materials and also the tools. If you don't have a sewing machine, it's something you probably buy when you're still in school, just so that you can be able to finish your projects on time. There is a lot of money involved in fashion, so just make sure you budget for it and just understand that it is expensive. Just because it is a skill-based course doesn't mean that it is not expensive. Maybe the thing about fashion either way is that you will learn everything. Even if you end up being a stylist, you learn everything, so you still need those things. Maybe what you won't buy is a machine, but you have to be sure. So anyway, my suggestion is, if you really want to do design, have a machine and you should have one even before you join school. Yeah, but budget for fashion, so keep that in mind. Start identifying the sector you are interested in early, especially in fashion. Fashion is very diverse. I know people really limit it to making clothes, but it's very diverse. So if you are lucky and you're able to identify the sector you're most interested in early, definitely research on it. I've just seen that some people end up doing default things in fashion, like you studied fashion design because you thought you want to be a fashion designer, and then suddenly you just want to be an illustrator or you just want to be a stylist, and it wasn't really something you kept in mind, and then you end up struggling through it because you just stumbled upon it, because making clothes is so hard. So I think it's just important to really know what you're getting yourself into. I know the problem we have, especially, I don't know if it's an African problem, but I can tell it's a Kenyan problem, where people treat fashion as the course you do because you didn't pass your exams. It is very unfortunate, but it is a highly skilled career, especially sewing. It really needs a lot of skill. It's the reason why there are billionaire fashion brands in the world. But anyway, yeah, just think through what you want to do in fashion. And the thing is that you will be very limited. Some of those things you learn through experience, and the truth is, it's okay to change your mind later. It's not the end of the world if you studied to be a designer and you end up being a fashion retailer or anything like that. There's no loss, because at least you're building on the foundation of having learned fashion design. So just have that in mind when you are researching which course you're interested in fashion. Learn to document your work. The beauty about documenting your work, this is before you join school, is that some of those sketches or whatever it is you've made, you might look down upon them, or they might look, I don't know, weird or strange, or they don't make sense, but they actually help in the long run. When I was in primary school, I didn't live very far from a fashion college, and I actually took my sketches there just to figure out if I'm good enough. At that time, I was really trying to figure out if it's something I want to do. And the principal of the college told me my work was good. Maybe she just told me because I was a kid who wanted to know. But whether or not she told me the truth, it meant the world to me, and it encouraged me to pursue fashion even further, and to keep sketching and to keep drawing and to continue improving on my skill. So don't look down on the projects you do. You don't know where they lead to. Even if you don't end up being a fashion designer or whatever it is that you do, you don't know where it will lead. So keep it. It might even inspire you later on to do another fantastic project. You never know. I still have a lot of my old sketches, a lot of them, and I always just think my mind was in another world at that time. But document your work. Even now in your professional life, document it, because it's very important also to just sometimes show people your process, and I do that a lot, especially on my Instagram pages. I do a lot of documenting my process and putting it on my Instagram stories and then on highlights. So check my highlights. You never know what you'll find there. Keep up with the fashion trends. Keep up with the colors. There's usually colors of the year and stuff like that. There is styles that come up. All those, keep up with them. I'm not saying that you have to follow them. I'm just saying keep up with them, because if your plan is to get into fashion global market, those things do matter. If your brand is very niche, then maybe it won't matter so much. If you're a stylist, it will matter. I'm sure I have learned that there's also trends in other design careers. Graphic design have trends. I didn't know that until I saw it in a documentary. Photography have trends, skills. There's a lot, and sometimes the public also is very swayed by what is popular, so you just have to keep up with them. So once in a while, when you get that client who really likes the idea of following trends, then you at least have the information. So just keep up with it, even before you join school or even after. It's just a good thing to do. I kid you not, I know this video is already just as long as the other one. Either way, we continue. So another thing I would highly recommend is to try and do courses and programs that would supplement your knowledge for fashion, or would basically elevate it. One of the things I had to do was a business class, and I did a business class because the school I went to, remember when I was saying check the curriculum, the school I went to did not have a business class. Despite the fact that they advertised that they will have a business class, they did not have it. So I had to do it later on in life. And one of the ones I did that I think as a creative, I think I would encourage other creatives to do was SINAPIS. And the reason why I would recommend SINAPIS is because the way they've modeled the course, it's basically like you're writing your business plan, and it's a once-a-week class. And it's like you're working on your business plan. So your assignment is basically working on your business. So you practically think through your whole business. And lucky for you, I did interview the East Africa director, Yvette, and the regional director. And I'll just share the clip of her explaining what SINAPIS is all about. Enjoy.
Hi, I'm Yvette, and I'm the East Africa Regional Director at SINAPIS. At SINAPIS, we work with entrepreneurs throughout the whole entrepreneurial journey. We understand that entrepreneurship is very exciting, yet it can also be very difficult and very lonely. And also, we want to equip entrepreneurs to be successful. And we do this through different programs that we have. If you're at the point where you have an idea and you're trying to figure out what to do with it, we have this program called Aspire, and it's once a week for 9 weeks. If you want to be able to register, please feel free to go into our website, www.sinapis.org, and we will be able to show you how you can register into this program. If you've been doing business for a little bit of a longer time, then you want to institutionalize your business, you want to have structures and systems in place and take it to the next level. We have a program called Academy, and the Academy runs for 16 weeks. You know, what is so interesting about these programs is that when you engage with the content, it gives you clarity. It gives you clarity on where you want to go and how you want to grow your business and what tools you can use to help your business to be more effective. But over and above that, maybe you've heard about us, maybe you've done our programs. We have a very vibrant alumni network. If you are a SINAPIS alumni, we have different engagements. We are talking about partnership on the 14th of October. And if you go into our website, we'll be able to show you how you can log in and have that conversation. We ensure that you go through sessions like coaching, helping you to identify the pain points and figure out how do we move from here. They always say that, what is the African saying? I think it says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And so we are all about building communities, and we would like you to be part of our community. Because when entrepreneurs are successful, we're able to transform our communities. Jobs are able to be created, and positive influence is able to happen. So, I'd like to welcome you. Come and join the change.
Education never stops. If you think that your education about your fashion journey is going to stop with school. I'm sorry to say it doesn't, because things change, and fashion is one of those industries that change all the time. So I encourage you, get into those fellowships, get into incubators, do competitions. I learned so much from competitions. Even if I don't win, the point necessarily is not usually to win, but also just to be in a space where I'm with other creatives in my sector, and it just pushes me to think in a different way. Apply for scholarships, go to school, learn some more, and sometimes the programs I apply for are actually more business related than fashion related. So whatever opportunities you do, join those trade organizations and all things like that. And apart from what you learn, you'll also build your networks, because you still need clients and you still need people in other sectors to support your business, or for you also to just grow and learn more about other sectors, or even how you can implement your skill in what they're doing. You could get training opportunities. You could make corporate wear for people. There's so many opportunities. So just get in there and don't let learning stop because you finished college. So every time you see a training opportunity that looks like might be something you'd be interested in, do apply for it. You never know. One thing that's very, very important, if you're going to be in fashion, learn the terms used in fashion. I know that there are some terms that are used locally, but it's important for you to know fashion terms generally. And the problem is sometimes there are some terms that change depending on what country you are in. That is something I actually learned when I was putting up my clothes online. You learn that if you're targeting Americans, they use the word maybe tunic and not kaftan. Maybe kaftan is used more in the UK, so if you're targeting UK people, you might have to write kaftan, things like that. But just learn the terms. Learn what a seam is, what a hem is, and what a French seam is, what a side seam is. Okay, the word seam is that's in my head. Just learn the terms, because it's just important. Even if you are in a different sector, learn what a mood board is, inspiration, what that looks like, and flats, what are fashion flats, what are line sheets. Those are very important terms. You just have to learn them. Even if you're not in design, generally you will come across a lot of those terms even in the other sectors of fashion. So even if you're a retailer, even if you're a stylist, all those things do come up. So just learn the terms, because I've seen that there are people who you can even get confused, or you miss out on opportunities because you didn't understand what the brief was about. So learn terms. Understand what is required in the market. Sometimes that is taken for granted, because I guess fashion is skill-based. Everyone wants to be a designer, and you think that just because you want to apply for a design job, that's what you'll get. Most of the time, if you're going to work for a fashion designer, rarely will you design. They'll probably design, and because of your skill level, maybe they'll give you an administrative role. I have worked like that before, and sometimes it's not very advantageous working for someone, and you won't be compensated for your design skills. So keep in mind what is needed in the job market. Be open to doing things that you might not have signed up to do, but also just make sure you don't end up sticking to only what you looking for work only on what you've learned. An example for me would be when I was in college. One of the biggest skills that fashion houses were looking for, even if you wanted an internship, was freehand cutting. At that time, schools were strictly only teaching pattern drafting, and pattern drafting is still probably what majority schools teach. Pattern drafting, I don't know if there's any school that really teaches draping in Kenya, but I could be wrong. I wouldn't know. It's been a while. So freehand cutting is basically what the tailors usually use, and majority of the people who've gone to trade fashion school do not know how to do freehand cutting. But luckily for me, the school I went to were teaching freehand cutting, so I did learn how to do freehand cutting, and I also know how to do pattern drafting. So at the time, freehand cutting was a very good skill. I don't know if, I think it's still helpful to me, especially for some designs that are not very complex. I use freehand, but majority of the time, of course, I prefer to use a pattern drafting. Generally, in the end, it's just about the fit of the outfit. So just know the skill that's needed. It's very important. Learn to manage your time and to manage your work. There are some tasks that will take you longer to finish. There are some jobs that have more steps to do. So this is not something that you'll always necessarily learn in school. There are some things you learn because of practicing. Like for me, I know how long it will take me to do certain beadwork, and I know if it's very complex how long it will take or how much to charge. And there are some particular jobs I actually charge because of the length of time, not necessarily because of the design. So it's just an important thing to know because of the nature of the job. Not every single design is going to be the same price because of the time you take to do it or the skill level that's even needed to do that particular job. So don't underestimate that. I know sometimes clients come and the silhouette of the dress might look simple, but it might not necessarily be simple to put together. So keep that in mind as well. Lastly, yes, it's brighter now because it was getting dark. Lastly, try and get internships based on what you're really interested in learning about. The truth is that you have to plan these internships because you could end up in a place where they just make you someone who runs errands or just some odd job that you may not have necessarily planned to do. And because you're an intern, you kind of just are at the mercy of the people offering you the internship. Try as much as possible to treat it like you're going to do a job and ask the owner for specific skills you want to learn. I have done a lot of interviews for internships, and most of the time people come to me without really knowing what they want. It doesn't matter if you have not been to a fashion school. I expect that if you're interested in fashion, you are interested enough to research on what it is you want to learn. There is so much information on the internet these days. Actually, there is no excuse. So it's important, if you have to buy books, buy books. Just say, I reached here and I didn't understand it. I actually prefer to help people who want to learn a very specific thing than just someone who generally wants you to teach them everything, which makes more sense for them to just go to school and learn it in the first place. So my internships are strictly for people who have done fashion, and because the whole point is to help them get to the next level and not necessarily teach them basics. For basics, I have a whole other apprenticeship program which people pay for, so that's a whole different thing. But for internships, usually the person doesn't necessarily pay, but we agree on what kind of internship it is. So anyway, this is the end. I hope you have enjoyed this. I know these videos are longer than I planned for, but next week I will be talking about what you need to start a fashion business in Kenya. Basically all those registration things, some things that you might not think of, and I don't know if I'll really exhaust everything. I'll just tell you from what I know. Even for this list, I'm sure I've not probably exhausted everything. So if you have some that I've missed, feel free to write it in the description, or I don't know, even on my Instagram if you want, whatever. Feel free to engage, and thank you so much for watching till the end. I really appreciate it. Please remember to like, share and subscribe. Subscribing is free, so I don't charge for subscribing. YouTube doesn't charge for subscribing, so please press the subscribe button, and I think there's a bell you can click on and you will get notified every time I upload a video. See you next week, and happy Easter. Bye.